Every year, about 50 billion birds travel across the globe southwards and northwards in search of suitable habitats. It is the mission, as well as the destiny, of a migratory bird to travel. The flights showcase the extraordinary capability of birds. They also manifest the intricacies of wildlife. During the fall season, sunlight gradually leans towards the south hemisphere. Cold air from the north moves southwards. The small passerine birds immediately sense the minute changes and embark on their journey without hesitation. Their flight marks the beginning of an ancient tradition. As breeding season comes to an end in the north, the birds move southwards in large flocks along established routes. Along the route, the birds stop over at different places for needed rest and food. Without these transits, they will not be able to complete their journey. Kinmen, located in the middle of a curved coastline along the edge of China, is a small island of only 150 square meters. Protected by the military in the past, the island boasts of many natural habitats. Sitting right on the East Asian-Australasian flyway, the island is an important stopover for the migratory birds. Compared to an inland environment, islands have a higher percentage of coastal areas. The expansive intertidal zones, lakes, and wetlands attract large flocks of shorebirds. Forests, bushes, and farmlands serve to provide a variety of microhabitats. These become transits for many land birds. Over 300 species of birds are found in Kinmen. Out of these, 87% are migratory birds, of which winter migratory birds account for about 70 species, while summer migratory birds account for 13 species. 127 are stopover species. Migratory birds engage in these long flights regardless of the perils involved. From the perspective of long-term evolution, their instincts are formed by low temperatures and less than adequate food sources. The seasonal migrations are affected by the amount of sunlight and food, as well as temperature. For example, the reproductive hormones of birds change accordingly to the amount of sunlight the birds receive. With longer daylight, the hormones increase, facilitating the development of sexual glands. This could explain why birds fly north in pursuit of more sunlight after spring. Birds are the fastest moving animals on Earth. During migration, they make full use of seasonal winds to conserve energy. Large birds, with their expansive wings, are adept at gliding. To make the most of uplifting air currents, they have no choice but to travel by day. Birds traveling by day risk the possibility of their wings overheating, as well as being preyed upon. This is why small birds, like swallows, wagtails, or starlings, travel under the cover of the night. navigating by monitoring Earth's magnetic field, or observing the stars. To fly in from North Australia to Siberia, a flock of great knots have to travel for 10,000 kilometers. The long journey not only requires enormous strength, it also involves many unknown risks. Calidrids are typical waders that spend their entire lives by the waters, yet they do not swim. This inability to land on water surfaces means that they have to cross over oceans in one stretch of flight without a break for several days. To understand migration better, biologists have used banding and radio tracking to unravel the mystery of bird migration. Banding is a very important way of understanding migration. Researchers around the world use metal rings and flags of different colors to band the birds. And then these birds are tracked around the world through international cooperation. Birds in Taiwan are banded with white and blue flags. This ruddy turnstone found in Kinmen was originally banded in Tasmania of Australia with an orange and blue flag. A black and white flag indicates that this transiting bird was banded in Chongming Island of China. By observing the flags, we can easily keep track of the habitats and routes of shorebirds. Even amateur birdwatchers can assist in reporting sightings of banded birds. Using satellite tracking, researchers can promptly know the position of the birds they are tracking. By tracking the black-tailed godwit, we know that it flies across the ocean directly to its destination without any interruptions for an entire week. Most birds embark on their journeys when the skies are clear. However, there is still a chance that they might run into terrible weather. Affected by rain and wind, some weak or sickly individuals will be forced to leave the flock midway. Some stray too far from their designated route and end up as vagrant birds. Vagrant birds account for about 13% of bird species in Kinmen, which is a rather high percentage. Birds like the Japanese paradise flycatcher, Plumius water redstart, and black-naped oriole are examples of vagrant birds. These birds arrive in Kinmen unintentionally, and they add to the diversity of bird species. Among the many types of migratory birds, wintering birds are the most common in Kinmen. Wintering birds are birds that arrive after the fall season and spend their entire winter in Kinmen. They leave to breed in the north during the coming spring. Every year, many sandpipers and plovers winter in Kinmen because of the abundant food found in the intertidal areas. They arrive in flocks after October and remain till April to May of the coming year before they head northwards. There are many species of sandpipers and plovers. Their plumage and physical characteristics differ greatly. Every species sport a different type of bill and body shape. These differences are due to long-term adaptation and evolution. The common curlew, with its long curved bill, is probing for food along the shore. Its bill is covered with nerves that enable it to sense the movement of its prey. With its long, thin bill, the black-winged stilt forages in water or on land for small insects and mollusks. With its long, spindly legs, it can eat and walk at the same time. It is also able to forage in deeper waters. During low tide, a small group of sandpipers and plovers convene at the shore. They hang around the shoreline taking baths or preening. When the tidal flats appear, they scatter away to forage. Birds that depend on the intertidal areas follow the tides closely. During high tide, when the waves cover the entire intertidal zone, the shorebirds retreat to the banks to rest. Most of the birds remain alert during their break. Every once in a while, they open their eyes to check on the surroundings. Together, they keep a watchful vigilance, taking off at the slightest disturbance. Sandpipers and plovers are agile flyers. To keep their feathers at optimum conditions, they will carefully preen every single feather. By applying preen oil from their uropygial glands on their feathers, the birds keep their feathers clean and dry. The many water areas in Jinmen host a great abundance of fish. Fish-eating birds are therefore attracted to spend their winter here. Herons and egrets are among the most graceful and patient species among the water birds. The little egret waits placidly in shallow waters for its prey to come close. It uses its legs to stir up the mud and scare up its prey. The tall and graceful great egret easily picks its prey from the water. The black stork used to be a vagrant species. Attracted by the abundance of food, the storks return to Jinmen every year, becoming a wintering species instead. In a flash of blue, the black-capped kingfisher has caught an instant trophy with its long and strong beak. Beautiful and rare, the kingfisher is the most striking migratory bird a birdwatcher can ever hope to see. Around mid-October, the Caspian terns arrive to grace the waters of Jinmen. The largest of all terns, the Caspian tern, spots an unmistakable coral red bill, which is why it is also known as the red-billed tern. The Eurasian oyster catcher has a slender and bright red bill, which helps to open up the shells of crustaceans. As the northeasterly winds pick up momentum, about 10 species of wild ducks return to Jinmen. Most of them are found near water areas. Wild ducks are omnivorous, and they forage in many ways. The gadwall and northern pintail will use their webbed feet to maintain their balance while upending to feed. The Eurasian teal is the smallest of all wild ducks. They use their little bills to graze the mudlands. The tufted duck is an adept diver. It will leap up from the water suddenly and plunge head-on into the water. This way of feeding enables it to reach food in deeper waters. Sometimes ducks can be quite opportunistic. When the coot emerges with food after a dive, the other ducks crowd around to reap the rewards. When flocks of ducks spend their winter in a wetland, The large amount of bird droppings contribute nitrogen and phosphorus to the ecosystem, helping to maintain the productivity of the wetland. After December, the number of cormorants roosting by the horsetail trees beside Lake Tse reaches its peak. Every morning, thousands of cormorants congregate over their roosting place before flying out to sea to feed. They are highly efficient fishermen. Taking advantage of their sheer numbers, row after row of cormorants take turns diving into the water. They form a formidable net, and their appetites are satisfied without much fuss. In the evening, the cormorants return to their roosting place in groups. These informal ensembles fly to the rhythm of the wind. Majestic and breathtaking, the flying formations are one of the most enjoyable sights of the natural world. Shorebird species are not only diverse, they are also easy targets to observe. In comparison, wintering land birds seem sparse in numbers and scattered. The movements of the field mouse in the field attract the attention of the buzzard and the kestrel. Robins are experts in foraging on the ground and among the bushes, feeding on small insects. Although small in size, they are generally brightly colored with great variations between male and female individuals. The bunting sports stubby and conical bills, and it mainly feeds on grass and other seeds. Its dark and spotty plumage with camouflaging details show that the bunting is a typical bush bird. The wagtail is always on the move and can be seen pecking at the ground rapidly and flicking its tail up and down. Open fields and water banks are favorite habitats of these birds. Birds are affected by environmental changes, and their behavior changes over time as well. Some wintering birds choose to become permanent residents in Kinmen. The spot-billed duck, Kentish plover, and Eurasian oystercatcher have been known to breed in the island. Just as the chilly northeasterly gales wind down, the southern winds arrive. As the warm air encounters the cold atmosphere of the land, a blanket of mist covers Kinmen. The birds begin their journey back to the north during this poetic season. Due to its location, Kinmen plays host to a great number of migratory birds heading south during spring. These transiting birds treat Kinmen as a stopover. After a brief respite, they carry on with their destiny. Most of the northward bound birds have donned their breeding plumage. The male male birds are especially resplendent in their bright colors. The new outfit is a major step towards successful mating. A bright and attractive appearance is more likely to gain the affections of a mate. This is why plumage during this season is known as the breeding plumage or summer plumage. Among the many species of transiting birds, terns are the most attractive. Their graceful flight, skillful flying techniques, diverse species, as well as their huge numbers, are all fascinating details. Birds of the Calidris genus have distinctive and contrasting black-brownish and chestnut-red summer plumage. The great knot is the largest bird of the Calidris genus. Together with the curlew sandpiper and sharp-tailed sandpiper, they are commonly seen at the mudflats of Jinmen. The Asiatic dowitcher is a rare wader. Only about 3,000 to 4,000 individuals remain. Sightings in the past have always been sparse, but over 20 birds were sighted here. The Chinese egret and the little egret look alike. The yellow bill of the Chinese egret is the major identifying trait. They are currently listed as endangered on IUCN's Red List. Spring in Jinmen is full of surprises and expectations. During this season of transit, many rarely seen birds make a brief appearance before vanishing again. After April, the wintering birds, having spent over half a year in Jinmen, are now driven by their reproductive urges to take off once again. The Kentish plover, greater sand plover, and dunlin put on their radiant feathers to join the ranks of the northbound travelers. The sandpipers and plovers may seem weak and delicate, yet they are seasoned long-distance travelers. Their daily fierce foraging at the shores have paid off. Armed with high levels of fat stored in their bodies, they are ready for their arduous, long flight back north. The sturdily built ducks, with their plump, beautiful feathers, are contemplating their journey as well. Even the coot, covered in black feathers, indicates its readiness with its round body and lustrous plumage. Many species head northwards during spring. Only a few exceptions arrive in Jinmen to breed. These birds that return to Jinmen for the breeding season are known as summering birds. Every April, the China berry tree puts forth its blossoms amidst the fog and ears of wheat. Mating calls of the summering birds can be heard everywhere. The graceful blue-cheeked bee-eater flies in from Southeast Asia to Jinmen. This is their homeland. With their radiant colors of blue, green, and chestnut, they can be seen feeding on insects in the fields. Dragonflies, butterflies, cicadas, as well as bees are their main staple. The blue-cheeked bee-eaters like to nest colonially in sandy hills, seashores, and sand dunes. They are often seen in groups. Mated partners will perform courtship and mating rituals near the nesting colony and dig their nests together. The swallow, which builds its nest with bits of mud, is highly loyal. Every year, it returns to the same breeding place. Kinmen residents are very fond of these birds, as they are thought to bring good fortune. The oriental pratincoal sports a bill with a red base, and a black line that runs down from below the eye to encircle the throat. Together with its graceful long wings, it is an unforgettable bird. It arrives in May and immediately begins its mating season. They like to lay their eggs on tilled farmlands, where the dirt easily conceals the incubating parents. Attracted by the ample food, the herons and egrets start their breeding colonies in the forests by the seashore. The little egret with its adorning plume feathers, and the cattle egret with its bright yellow plumage, orange eyes, and purplish lore are all manifestations of breeding colors. The herons and egrets are busy defending their territories, building nests, incubating, and feeding. Their purpose is to raise a new generation. There are a total of 33 resident bird species in Kinmen. These birds remain in Kinmen throughout the year. From the perspective of evolution, birds can be considered as one of the most successful living forms. Their ability to adapt has enabled them to utilize all kinds of habitats and to develop a great many ways of surviving. The black-winged kite hovers in the air to locate its prey. Its hooked bill is a clear indication that it is a carnivorous bird. Birds of prey, like the black-winged kites, are at the top of the food chain, and they can efficiently control the number of rodents. The oriental greenfinch has a stout and short bill, which it uses to break through hard nutshells. Greenfinch parents chew up the seeds before devouring them, and then regurgitate them to feed the chicks. Some birds are typical opportunists. Their diet is wide-ranging, and they are not very particular with what they eat. Birds like the myna, black-collared starling, and magpie are typical opportunistic species. A water area could be home to more than a dozen species of birds at the same time. Every bird plays an important part in the ecosystem, and every bird occupies a unique ecological niche. The little grebe dives into the water to forage for food. The pied kingfisher hovers in midair to pinpoint its prey before diving into the water to capture it. The common kingfisher stands on a branch, awaiting its chance to launch a surprise attack on unsuspecting fish. Birds occupy specific ecological niches in the natural world. Plants, insects, and birds have evolved together for at least 150 million years. Myriads of mutually beneficial relationships have emerged between them. Birds not only help with the pollination of plants and the spreading of seeds, they also inhibit the excessive growth of insect populations. Not only are birds a vibrant and delightful part of nature, they are also indicators of a sound and healthy environment. They are an indispensable part of our ecosystem. With their sheer numbers and diverse species, the birds have attested that Kinmen is a place of great natural resources. And Kinmen Island will continue its role as a stopover, as well as a homeland for migratory birds around the world.